How's it going, Pirates? Captain Tom here. By now, hopefully if you watched the game setup video, I thought I'd spend some time and go over a little bit about how your cards interact during a player's turn. So go ahead and join me. The most important rule clarification is a pirate and elite pirate card cannot be used more than one game phase, whether that's the draw phase, the tidings phase, the action phase, or the ending draw phase. Yes, crew cards can per page 6, but pirate and elite pirate cards can only be used in one phase of the game. So let's give an example of a card being played in the draw phase. So let's say it's the start of round 2. I'm playing solo version. I've already drawn my new Chaos card, looked at it of course. I'm drawing my hand up to 4 cards. So how could we, in this example of a card being played in the draw phase, do this? Well, because we have 1 reputation token, I could take here and I could play Red Jolly with the reputation token, thereby discarding this card because I'm playing it in the draw phase, like so. Again, these are discarding it in the draw phase, and then drawing 2 additional cards into my hand for a total of now 5 cards, and I can begin my turn with 5 cards. And that's just one example of how you would actually use your cards in the in the draw phase. Now going to the tidings phase, a little bit more simple to understand. So over here we've got our tidings die. And our tidings die we're going to go ahead and roll. So say we roll our tidings die and it happens to be a red lookout. Well, as you can see on the board, let's just focus on the board here, where our pirate is in La Blanquilla, and that's important because we're using the collector's edition, so I hope you guys like those ships. And that would force a red lookout of the closest Navy token or to come join us in combat. Well, say I do not really want that to happen. Well, again, coming over to our cards, an example of our card being played in the tidings phase, I could take our Try Again Matey and I could try to re-roll that die, but that would cause me to discard this card. And then finally, page 9, the majority of your cards in this game will be played in the action phase of your turn. Now, when we talk about the action phase, there's pretty much 6 things that you can do in the action phase. You can move, you can draw mission cards, you can rest, you can establish a pirate haven, and you can raise the pirate haven, and you can combat. You can use your 4 cards here, again, for any of those 6 actions, but you can only use them for one of those 6 actions. Now, of course, the majority of these actions are combat. Similarly, you can use 1 card during all steps of combat. And because that seems to be where some of the confusion is, let's talk about using your cards for all steps of combat. Well, we know that combat has 4 steps. It has an initiative step, an attack or defense step, a target step, and an end step. So going with our example over here, let's just say we rolled a 2 on the tidings die, so our movement is going to be at 5, as we know here. As we move into our territory space while we're at sea to our next, territory location, we know that that would automatically force combat with this pirate token. And because it's going to force combat with this pirate token, I'm going to roll the initiative die. So the first step of combat is always initiative. And now let's say I rolled that initiative die and it was a critical miss. Boom. Well, the rulebook tells us that's either you got to remove 1 reputation token from your hand, you need to take a bloodshed, or you need to discard 1 of your cards from your hand. Well, if I don't like that roll, we are in the combat phase. So what I can do with that roll, as an example, is I can spin this card, Try Again Matey, and try to re-roll that die. That would be one example of doing that. Another thing that we basically can do, if I was to take another set of cards, so you can see this example here, is if our deck of 4 cards happen to be strike your colors. Well, why is that important? Well, that's important because if I spent a reputation token, now again, I'm in the combat action, and I can use the entirety of the improved effects abilities for all of combat. So now, if I use the reputation token here, I could definitely re-roll my initiative, and on top of re-rolling my initiative, I would automatically get to use during combat the 2 long range. So that would be an example of, and let's go ahead and try that. So let's say I re-rolled the die because I did not want that critical hit, and I ended up actually getting a hit. Boom. Well, again, because I already powered this card's ability in the first step of combat, which was initiative, I can still, now that I gained initiative, use the +2 long range to attack this token. As we can see the token here, the token says that we can try to defeat it with a 4 long range, a 5 close quarters, or a 2 strike fear. Well, what we're going to do for this round is we're going to definitely capitalize in on that 2 that we saw there for our long range, and then we're going to use our red jolly. And the red jolly combined with strike your colors defeats that token. So that would be another example of how combat is played using your cards as in the different phases of your turn. Now the next question that comes up a lot, and we're going to use this for the next example, is, okay, Captain Tom, so what happens if, similar example, I come into this next territory over here of Curacao, I flip that token over, and now we have a Mighty Merchant that's got a +5 long range, holy cow, and he's got a +5 close quarters. Well, with that, we're going to roll the initiative die, no different than what we've been doing. I roll the initiative die, and it happens to be a miss. Well, no problem, because guess what I can do next? I can go ahead and try to flee. I can try to flee by now rolling the initiative die again. But unfortunately, it's another miss. Darn it. That means I immediately have to defend. So looking at my cards here, I'm going to need to defend a total of at least 3 long range and 3 close quarters to actually be able to take only 1 bloodshed. So let's see if we can do that. So do I have the 3 long range? I absolutely do here. And do I have the 3 close quarters? Well, it looks like I'm going to have to use that reputation token to get that 3 close quarters. And that's going to spend a lot of my cards. But with all those cards that now just got discarded in the defense phase, or the defense phase, I'm going to take a bloodshed. So for my collector's edition folks, we got to show off some of this bling bling. You can go ahead and use your collector's edition bloodshed. And you've taken that bloodshed. But what that automatically allows me to do, this is very important. If you go to page 13, it's very important here that you may now generate an attack. Well, of course I don't want to generate an attack. I just want to flee. So I was able to successfully defend, and now you're absolutely allowed to flee to that next territory space. So I do hope that clears up a little bit of some of the questions that you had. What I will talk about here lastly is how the crew cards interact with your gameplay. Won't spend a lot of time there because I think it is self-explanatory for a lot of you. But let's say we now have a level 3 captain. And our level 3 captain allows us to now draw our hand size up to 5 cards, which you see here. One of them being a crew card. And if you're wondering what this iconography is, that's right, folks, it's Black Bart. We're bringing that collector's edition out. Hope you guys love him. And so with this card can be used again at any of those phases that we talked about. It can be used in the tidings phase, action phase, ending draw phase, etc. The only caveat is once that crew card is played, it stays in your hand indefinitely. So as you're discarding these cards, your crew card stays in your hand. The only difference there is if you have to defend with your crew card and your crew card defends, it's permanently discarded from the game. So with that, I'm going to close up with the top 5 clarifications before I leave. Let you go. The first one is only the C tokens that you'll ever flip up. The only C tokens you'll ever flip up is during game setup and during round 2 and 3 setup. All the other tokens are face down until you move into that same territory location as the C token. That's right, treasure fleets, pirate hunters, you name it, they all should be face down. Next, and this comes up a lot, is page 6. And you guys talked about page 6 where it says playing cards. Page 6 playing cards says you can gain the text effects of any cards. In fact, you must gain the text effect of any cards. So some of you are confused or concerned with, hey, Captain Tom, there's no plus or minus sign underneath the text effect. That's right, because you can use the long range or you can use the +2 close quarters. Either one of those you use, you get the text effect of the card. So I do hope that clears things up. And the last thing, and this is a mechanic change or mechanism change, and you will see this in the updated rules. Better to let you guys know now so you understand gameplay. The first part here is movement. Movement points are only used to move during gameplay. And that's important because with the exception of rest, you may perform all of these actions, those 6 actions we talked about, very important here, in any order, any number of times, and when you can no longer do any of them or not want to do them, you must end your turn. Wait, Captain Tom, it says there that when your movement ends, your turn ends. I know that's what it says. Black that out. I'll talk more about that later. So again, with the exception of rest, you may perform all these actions in any order, any number of times, and when you can no longer do any of them or not want to do them, you must end your turn. And then lastly, the Imperial land spaces. Imperial land spaces, as we know here, is that while at sea, so we're at sea here, you may scout Imperial land spaces within the same territory. You will spend one movement to place a land token from the supply and place it face up on that land space. That is known as scouting. I'm now spending one movement. I'm not moving into the land space. I'm here, I'm spending one movement. And by doing that, that allows me to take that token and flip it up. I'm still out at sea. Moving on to an Imperialist land space generates combat with either the face-up token, land token, already scouted in gameplay, or by drawing a random supply token from the land token supply for unscouted land spaces. So you absolutely can go ahead and land there all day, but when you land there, no different than a sea space, you are going to trigger a land token. So I hope that helps you guys. We are working to have an updated frequently asked questions and rulebook that will incorporate these clarifications. We'll also have an official co-op playthrough conducted by One Stop Co-op Shop with Colin, and they'll be providing a professional playthrough. So I do hope you enjoyed the video. Please post your questions. We hope now that you can enjoy your game a little bit better, and we'll go ahead and talk to you real soon.